This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're just speaking words now. They don't mean much.
Well, let's get back to it.
Crowds of pagans, druids, hippies and tourists headed to Stonehenge to celebrate the winter solstice, the shortest day and the longest night in the Northern Hemisphere. We're over it. Thousands were at the megalithic circle on the plain as the first rays of sun broke through the stones. The site has been subject of vigorous debate, with some theories being more outlandish than others. Some were alien in nature. This year, in a paper published in the journal Archaeology International, which is my favourite journal about international archaeology, researchers from the University College London and Aberystwyth University said that the site may have had some unifying purpose in ancient times. They based that on a recent discovery that one of the stones of Stonehenge, the unique stone lying flat at the centre of the monument, dubbed the altar stone, originated in Scotland land, hundreds of miles north of the site. How did they get it down there then? What was surprising was that it came so far away. I'm reading this. This is not off the top of my head. This is an Associated Press piece. What was surprising was that it came so far away. It was long known that the other stones came from here, there and everywhere, baby, all over the place, including the so-called blue stones, the smaller stones at the site that came from Preseli Hills in southwest Wales, which itself is nearly 150 miles away. That varied geology is what makes Stonehenge unique among over 900 stone circles in Britain.
What?
900 stone circles in Britain. But you can't name one more. The fact that all of its stones originated from distant regions suggests that the stone circle may have had a political as well as a religious purpose, said Professor Mike out of the Institute of Archaeology of University College London. But as he is an expert in possession of facts, nobody was remotely interested in anything he had to say. We're all about feelings now, baby.
Correct.
Unification. That's what he said. It may have served as a monument of unification for the peoples of Britain. A unification, a bringing together, a oneness, an ancient symbol of love and harmony. And 5,000 years later, how's that going?
Dreadful.
The harmony part. Not very well at all. Still, never mind. In another 5,000 years, everything will be just tickety-boo, I'm sure of it. Texts and messages and such from last night. Richard in Seaford said, stop whining about letters and cards being a dying thing. I was doing that. I wasn't whining. I was just suggesting that Christmas cards will die out as the current older generation drop off the end of life's conveyor belt, because I don't think kids are into sending cards. He says the postcard industry is dead on its feet because of stamp prices. In Clacton, Nigel Farage has killed them off entirely for obvious reasons. He hates the seaside with a vengeance.
I'm a nutcase.
I don't know if he actually hates the seaside at Clacton. Has he ever seen the seaside in Clacton? Where is he now, by the way? Where's Nigel? This text says, don't want to brag, but I have 60-plus cards this year. You are bragging. Says, I'm a dog groomer and I get cards from all the dogs. I have no idea how they write them, as they don't have thumbs to hold a pen. And I was thinking about that. My unhinged outburst last night about the dying off of Christmas cards, and I was thinking about that as I was opening the Christmas cards that nice people had sent me at this place of doing business. And I felt so ashamed. And I thought, oh, thanks for not giving me a return address so I don't feel like I have to send you one back. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Some nice presents too. Appreciate those doubly. This text says, every child in the country writes in their subject books all day long. There was another unhinged but related rant about nobody writes with a pen anymore. Every child in the country writes in their subject books all day long. I seriously doubt it. I mean, Doodle. Not Google. Doodle. Doodle, I bet. Writing, probably not so much. Don't bother, kids. You're not going to be able to understand your notes. It won't mean anything to you. Just, pay attention and catch up at the end, just before the exams. That's what I did. And look at me now. Unemployed for 4 days of the week. This text says, idea for 300th podcast. Because me and Carol were about to do our 300th podcast.
Oh, right, yeah.
300 podcasts. 300 podcasts, each and every one of them highly amusing, I think you'll find. Mostly chucklesome. And we've done 299. The 299th episode is edited and ready to go. It will hit the internet on Monday. And then there's going to be a brief pause, and over the festivities, and we'll be back on the. I think it's the 6th. Is the first week that everybody gets back to work in the new year, assuming we all live that long. That an asteroid that they've told us is going to skim by tonight doesn't actually skim by at all. I mean, they wouldn't tell us if it wasn't going to, would they? Because can you imagine the panic if they told us that there was an asteroid headed right at us? So they always say, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's going to skim the far side of the moon, if anything at all. Millions and millions of miles away. The government has said that there is nothing to worry about.
Oh, no.
This text says, the idea for the 300th podcast, do something about milestones. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Random milestones, ones folks aren't sure whether to celebrate or not. Sad milestones, happy milestones. For example, should one celebrate being sober for 2 years? Yeah, have a drink.
Booze.
Go on, force yourself. Does it make you want to toast the moment? That is a pretty good idea. Are you listening to this, Carol?
No.
No, it's not remotely interested. I'm going to write that down and send it to her. So if you want to take part in the podcast that we will be recording, let me see now, we'll be recording it, I think on the 2nd of January. So you have time to think about it. And the email address is as follows, nickandcarol@global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, milestones. Whatever they may be, whatever occurs to you, send them in, and then we'll have a chit-chat about them. Doesn't that sound great?
Yeah.
The podcast is called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? That's the best idea I've heard so far. Milestones. I mean, not that it really makes much difference one way or the other. So if the 299th is not necessarily going to be any different than the 300th, but because it's a round number, you feel as though it is significant. And if there's 2 zeros on the end of a number, then that is significant-er. So that's a good idea. Something about milestones, random milestones. Anything you like, really. And me and Carol will read them out and talk about them. To the delight of many. Nick and Carol @global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com. Random milestones. I like it. Luton. Hello, Jay.
Oh, hi. Good evening, Nick.
Yes, Jay.
Yeah, I was wondering, update on your toilet refurbishment.
Pardon?
You were a couple of shows ago. You were talking about your toilet. You can't complete your toilet.
Oh yeah.
Is it one of the? This is a Brexit benefit thing, where.
Is it a Brexit benefit that I haven't got a completed toilet?
Yes, because you can't find the builders to complete them.
Well, nobody can find it. No one can find a builder at this time of year. I mean, they just do not exist. It's as though they go into hibernation for at least 2 weeks before Christmas, and probably another 2 weeks after Christmas. You cannot find one. It is impossible.
Yeah, and I know. It's difficult, isn't it? All the builders.
It's not difficult. It's impossible, man.
Yeah, but another thing is I wanted to ask you if you remember things like handkerchiefs.
What?
Because I was ill. I was ill the other day for 2 weeks, and I was using so many tissues. And I remember when I was a child, my mum used to give me a handkerchief.
Oh, a handkerchief, yeah, so you could carry all of that around with you all day long. Why would anybody want to do that? That is just absolutely revolting. Then they used to put it in the washing machine with all the other clothes.
Disgusting.
Ugh.
I just wanted to remind your younger listeners that we used to use handkerchiefs.
Yeah, amazing. Handkerchiefs. Are you saying hand catchers?
Handkerchief, yeah. I don't know. Maybe
handkerchiefs, yeah. It sounds like you're saying hand catchers. No, you caught all sorts of the ick in the hand catcher. I suppose it is a hand catcher, isn't it? It's a catcher that you use with your hand.
Do you use them or not?
No, God, no. A handkerchief? Do I sound like 90 years old to you? Nobody uses a handkerchief.
I bet I know who's using it right now. It's a Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Smug, yeah. Well, no doubt.
Yes, it must be.
Probably got a personal handkerchief wrangler to hold it up to his nose as he blows.
And do you iron your socks?
Jay, I've got to go. 0345 6060 973. Let me think about that.
No.
Do I iron my sock? Yeah, as often as I iron my towels. What are you talking about? Nobody in the history of humankind has ever ironed socks. Greg says, what you are forgetting about Christmas cards is the cost of stamps. £1.65. Isn't that incredible? £1.65. They used to be 32p. What happened to that? He says, I also don't think my grandson would know which side of a stamp to lick, or even know that you have to lick it. Aha, charade you are, Greg. You don't have to lick them anymore. They just peel off, and then you attach them. They have, the sticky side. Is it called the mucilage? That does sound like something you would catch in a handkerchief, doesn't it? Mucilage. Ew. Yeah, I think they self-stick these days. You don't have to lick them. It will probably give you all manner of interesting complications if you tried to.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
Lynn in Lancaster says, Nick, I send letters and Christmas cards. I am not old. Bet you are, Lynn. What does old mean? Old is just older than you are. Doesn't matter how old you are. Old is older than you are. She says, I just think it's a lovely thing to do when it's greatly enjoyed and appreciated by the recipient. Yeah, so do I. It's just slightly annoying that the recipient expects you to send one back. And if you're not a person that sends cards, then you're not giving them a present, you're giving them a task. That's all I'm saying. It will be a very sad day, says Lynn, who is not old, when no cards ever land on your doormat again. Hence why I always do it. Well, that's true too. I mean, I like receiving them, I just don't like, posting them out. It's a relatively cheap thing to do to bring a smile to someone's day. Hail Royal Mail, says Lynn. Which is, I don't know. That seems like not the right thing to say. Hail Royal Mail. I mean, it's £1.65, and that does sound like a lot, but if you think about what you get for that service, you hand your letter or postcard or whatever it is to somebody you don't know, and you give them £1.65 and they'll take it to anywhere you like in the country. Anywhere. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. Even if it was just down the road half a mile, would you pay somebody £1.65 to take it to take a little message to somebody on the other side of the street? Probably, if you didn't want to talk to them. If you think about it like that, it's not bad value. This one says, Hi, Nick, did you know that Don Donald recently told Americans that America had been allies with Italy since the times of ancient Rome? Yeah, he did that. He's not a very smart person.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yeah, he's like a smart person, but not a smart person. It says, the look of horror on the face of the Italian lady translator was priceless. 4 more years to go.
I can be more presidential than anybody.
Yeah, and for longer than anybody else, too. If you think that Donald Trump is going to be leaving in 4 years, then I have a non-fungible token I'd like to sell you. It's one of those ones of him as a superhero. His special ability would be building a wall.
I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall, okay? I'm building a wall.
And once a wall is in front of you, there's absolutely no way you can get through that wall.
If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
Yeah, apart from going through or over or around. Other than that, there's absolutely no way to get through a wall. This text says, Mike here in Valencia in Venezuela. Huh. 7 p.m. being eaten by mozzies in 30-degree heat and enjoying the show. You can keep the cold in the UK, says Mike in Valencia in Venezuela. Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Mike, but we don't wish to know that. 30 degrees heat. Blimey. Can you imagine? Well, I can imagine, but it seems like a dim, distant memory. Paul, how many of these have I got to go? Oh, my God, it just goes on and on. Nobody communicates with their mouths anymore. It's all waggling thumbs at phones. Paul in Manchester says, why not replace the House of Lords with a giant version of the tipping point machine? Simply put the bills in the top and see if they fall in A or nay. I don't know what tipping point is. What's tipping point? I bet my glamorous assistant knows. What's tipping point?
Tipping point is like a game show where you have sequins that come down and you've got to knock over other sequins to get money. Sequins.
Sequins?
Yeah.
Are you saying sequins?
Yes.
Or the things that stars sew on their dresses?
Yeah, but they're big.
Oh, big sequins.
Yes.
Right, okay. So that's a good idea. It would introduce an element of amusement, of fun. The tipping point machine, I have no idea what that is. Probably one of those daytime game shows, I bet. Stop watching daytime game shows and they will stop making them. I promise you that's true. This says, is that the one where they... Oh, right. No, that's not... Oh, that's right. So there's a picture of it right there. Is that one of those things where they shuffle the... What do you call them? The penny shuffles? Or...
Yes.
The arms that push, and they seem to push pennies, or 10p's probably now, that are cantilevered out over the edge to an impossible degree. And you think, well, I mean, they'll go if I just breathe on them. And then you put your money in, and it swallows it up, and nothing happens. And there's a reason for that. There's a ploy that they use. And I only know this because I saw one of those machines that was empty. You know the pennies or the 2p bits or the 10p coins, they appear as though they're hanging right over the edge. And you think, just a slight nudge on this machine. If I accidentally bump it on my way by, the amount of money that's going to be cascading down into the little chute there is going to be enormous. In about 10 minutes, I'm going to be a millionaire, you think. And then you pour all your money in and absolutely nothing seems to happen. They're still stuck there. And the reason that they're stuck there is because you think that it's flat all the way across. But it's not. There's a jutting out part in the middle where all the pennies or the 10p bits, they all collect. And it appears as though they're hanging over the edge, but they're not. They're on firm ground. And so you'd have to spend a fortune to... you'd have to spend an enormous amount of money just to get a penny back. So I would not waste your money, kids. Don't waste your money playing it, and don't waste your time watching it. This says, Nick, I remember we were talking about old TV sets last week and the old stuff, but didn't mention 3D programs that were aired in the 1980s. There was a big thing then, and I remember Jaws was one of those broadcast films in 3D. Hang on. And the newspapers included 3D glasses in their papers to watch the films. Yeah, I remember that. I nearly had a heart attack watching Jaws in 3D when that floating head came at me without warning. I bet you didn't. I think you're overselling that. They were rubbish and headache-inducing. The last decent thing I saw was the blue people, whatever that was called, Avalon or Amazon or You know, the blue people. And they released another one, and it was just an exercise in computer technology. There wasn't a story so much as just, look what we can do with computers. For about 6 hours. Just went on and on and on. You know, the thing with the blue people. Alistair says, so Kirsty was bang on the money. Kirsty who? Scotland is more than big enough to be an independent country. Independence has been polling at 54 to 59% for the last 6 months. The youth are waking up, she says. Hey, youth, wake up. It's later than you think. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Hiya, Nick.
Yes, Jeff.
I'm a tipping point winner.
You're a what now?
I'm a tipping point winner, man.
You're a tipping point winner?
Yes.
No.
You don't know what tipping point is, do you?
You mean you went on hang on a minute. You went on a TV program and you won?
Yes.
Or are you telling me or are you telling me that you went to an amusement arcade and won 10 pence?
No. I've given your glamorous assistant the episode and the series.
You think we're going to look that up?
Yes. He's desperate. He's desperate to see it, the episode.
All right, well, talk us through it. What happens?
Well, you go on. There's 4 contestants.
How did you get on? I mean, you know, tell us the story. How do you get to be on a TV game show?
Well, you phone up.
Is that it?
And you phone up the company.
Yeah.
And you ask, and they say yes. They got rehearsals or auditions.
All right. So it's not yes straight away. You have to pass a test.
Well, first of all, you have to. They phone you, and you end up answering questions. And if you fail to answer a number of questions, like what's your name,
they deport you.
What's your date of birth, and you can't answer it. They
one-way trip to Rwanda.
Yes. So after that, then you attend in a posh hotel. I think it was at Anderson. And they film you, and then you go up and you do a little bit of.
Yeah, where is this? Where was it?
In Cardiff.
In Cardiff, right? Okay.
Yeah, and after that they'll phone you if they want to go on, and then they filmed the thing in Bristol.
Yeah, and so are there questions involved in the program itself?
Yeah, well, you got a buzzer.
Right, so
you interrupt, right. and
what were the questions then? Well, I can understand that you would interrupt, but what are the questions? You must remember.
Is a lava igneous, sedimentary, or metamorphic?
What? That was a question on this show.
Yeah, well, they are the question, and they give you 3 alternatives.
Is lava? Give me the options again.
Igneous.
Yes.
Metamorphic. Or sedimentary.
Igneous. Is it?
Yes.
Yay! What do I win?
10 grand.
Really? Did you win £10,000?
Yeah. Well, I must tell you that I was the only competitor that when they say, "What are you going to do with the money, Jeff?"
Mm-hmm.
And
I know this guy on the radio, and he's really great, and I want to show my appreciation, so I'll pop a check in the post. Something like that.
No, I said, I want to buy 5 solar panels and a storage battery.
Right. Well, that's very sensible of you, I suppose.
Yes, because everybody goes on a cruise or they go on to...
buy a new car, a boat.
Whatever. And I said, and as we were doing, because they spend the first 2 hours explaining the rules of the game to you and signing no end of documents, play declamations, whatever. And during this period, there was a knock on the door can I see Jeff, please? And I said, what the hell is this? You're doing a battery and a storage?
Yeah.
And I slowly worked myself up the hierarchy till I had about 7 or 8 people come down. We've never had this as going to spend the money on.
People always say comics and sweets. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I met everybody.
Right.
And it was really interesting.
Well, now this is beginning to sound like it was a fix.
Well, your glamorous assistant is going to dig up the episode.
Right.
So you should really
give me another question that you were asked.
Another question.
Yeah.
How old were your grandchildren? And I couldn't answer that.
What? How did they know the answer to that?
No, they didn't. I was only joking.
Oh, okay. That was a little joke.
Sorry.
Sorry. We don't accept jokes on this show.
Sorry about that. But he did ask me it, and I said that's the most difficult question you've asked me because I couldn't.
You can't remember a single other question that you had. I mean, I like the lava one, igneous. I'm 1 out of 1, 100% success rate so far. Go on, ask me another one.
Who was in Singing in the Rain?
Well, there was lots of people in Singing in the Rain. Gene Kelly, for a start.
You got it.
Gene Kelly. Wow.
You got it.
I thought that with the igneous rock thing that was going to be much more difficult than that, but that was a piece of cake. So that's £10,000 you owe me.
Pen?
Huh?
What's a stylo pen?
What's a stylo pen?
Who would use a stylo pen?
Well, I know the answer to that, but are we even allowed to mention his name on the radio anymore? It's Rolf, isn't it? Can you tell what it is yet?
No.
All right. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Hello, boys.
I can't believe that I just won £10,000 on this show already. I'm doing tremendously well. This says, Nick, I was watching the tractors at Westminster. What would have happened if Just Stop Oil had protested and blocked all the tractors in? Political and law enforcement dilemma. Yeah, that's right. None of those tractor people are spending Christmas in jail, by the way. Just keep that in mind. The punishment is only for the people who are trying to save humankind's position on this planet. Those people get punished. The people who just want to swerve paying the same kind of tax that all of the rest of us do and complain even if their tax bill is half what ours is, they get a pass. Because they're acting on behalf of billionaires and the landed gentry. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Jim in Somerset says, please, can you say priority in your titchy voice? Oh, I'm here to amuse you. This says, we should all stop our direct debits to water companies and make their bosses all pay with their ridiculously high bonuses. Well, there was a couple of stories about that today. I mean, it just gets so infuriating. It just makes me want to spit. Yorkshire Water first. This is from the Canary publication. A chap called James Wright wrote the following. An entire third of a person's average water bill in Yorkshire already goes to dividends and debt for private company Yorkshire Water. A third of your bill goes to dividends and paying off the debt.
What?
Yeah, a third. When you remember Margaret Thatcher?
No!
Yes, that's her. When Margaret Thatcher handed our essential water assets to private industry, they were debt-free. Yorkshire Water now has a debt of £6.2 billion. That is on top of dividends and debt accumulation, and prices are rising by 41% to £607 annually. 607. Nonetheless, the Yorkshire Water CEO, Nicola Shaw, shrugged off her bonus of £371,000, saying, my shareholders are paying for that bonus and I want to make sure I am incentivised to keep turning the business around and make sure these investments work for Yorkshire. Can these people hear themselves? Her base salary is £585,000 a year. And she wants to make sure that she is incentivized to do her job by being paid a bonus on top of £371,000 a year. I ask you, would you be incentivized to do your job to the best of your ability if you were paid £585,000 a year? Or would you take that amount and think, well, I'm not that bothered about this job. I think I need some more. I need an incentive. It's like they're living in a different planet. In a different universe, on a different planet.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I've heard that from this kind of person over and over and over again. Oh, well, I need my bonus in order to incentivize me. You know what incentivizes most people in work in this country? To do their job to the best of their ability? Because they get their sack if they didn't. Unbelievable. And the only reason that they can come out with stuff like that is because they are surrounded by other people who think they are also as entitled. That they, on their six-figure salaries, need an extra inducement to do their blooming job. £585,000 a year, and she has the nerve to say that she wants to make sure that she is incentivized to keep turning the business around. I'll go to the foot of it. If I had stairs, I'd be at the foot of them right now. Shareholders in Yorkshire Water have received £522 million in dividends since 2017. This country has lost its mind. I mean, it really has. We're the only country in the world that has sold off all of our water. Well, we're the only country in the world that was briefly run by Margaret Thatcher. Not brief enough. Is there anything that wasn't actually nailed down or growing in the ground that she didn't sell off for a short-term sugar rush? So that a relatively few number of people made a massive amount of money, and there was no trickle-down at all. Trickle-down economics, there's no such thing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Speaking to ITV, Shaw herself nailed one of the problems with private equity eating up an essential industry by saying, when people lend you money, they obviously want to see a return. Yeah. You know who doesn't want to see a return? The public who used to own their water companies. We didn't want a profit from it. We just wanted rivers that weren't full of, There is a correlation between public ownership and cleaner water in the environment. Countries with water in 100% public ownership have excellent water and bathing sites. Cyprus, Austria, Malta. 95% excellent water and bathing sites. In this country, 66.3. I wouldn't go anywhere near it. I wouldn't want to get any on my shoes, let alone dunk myself in it. We are at pretty much the bottom of the table of our European counterparts. And it's not a coincidence. It's because that we sold it all off to companies that were more interested in making money than anything else, because of course they were. In Austria, people view water privatisation as so bananas, they banned it via the Constitution. And the UK should follow suit, says James Wright, out of the Canary publication, and he is completely correct in every respect. And that's just one story. It gets worse. I don't know if I've got the strength. Pity the poor people who rely on Southern Water, because for the second Christmas in a row, thousands of residents found their taps had run dry yet again.
What?
So it happened last Christmas and it's happened again. Southern Water, which serves 2.5 million customers across the southeast of England, suffered another major outage just a year after the last time this happened. Satvir Kaur, the Labour MP for Southampton, said over the past few days that she has received hundreds of calls from constituents unable to access bottled water. Among them were single mothers with disabled children, she says, patients just out of surgery who didn't have any water to take their medication with, and poorer residents without cars unable to get to the nearest water station. But what really stung for the Labour MP for Southampton and her constituents is the fact that it came in the same week that industry regulator Ofwat announced the useless for what? Useful for what would be a better way of saying it. Ofwat. Ofwat announced the average water bill was set to rise by £86 across England and Wales from April. And who was increasing the most? The very same Southern Water that is not providing water for people in its manner for the second Christmas in a row. Locals just learned that company boss Lawrence Gosden was pocketing a £183,000 bonus on top of his £764,000 pay package. It's just incredible. For excellence in being him. The outage has been caused by a technical issue at one of Southern's oldest and largest sites. Well, you know what would have fixed that? Spending some of the money that the company took out in dividends on their actual blooming infrastructure. It was during a planned works at this facility that the error occurred and the site shut down, and by the next day, 58,000 households, not people, households, were waking up to find very little or nothing at all coming out of their taps, except air. Air and disappointment. More than 30 schools were closed as a result. Nearly 24 tankers were sent out to supply critical infrastructure, including 7 at Southampton General Hospital, so it could carry on treating patients. You know, nothing serious, just a blooming hospital without any water. Southern's recent history has been littered with fines, most recently a record £90 million fine in 2021 after pleading guilty to illegal discharges of raw sewage into the sea. But it doesn't make any difference. These fines are as nothing to them. They just brush them off. It's the price of doing business. I mean, they get fined and they get fined and they get fined, and they just keep on doing the same blooming thing year after year after year. Of course it doesn't make any difference to them. They keep doing the same thing, and the CEOs keep getting blooming bonuses for their performance. It's just incredible. And the people in this country, they just go, oh, well, never mind. What can we blame on Keir Starmer or Meghan Bloomin' Markle? In January, Southern had to apologise after planning to dump diluted sewage into a renowned chalk stream, famous for its trout and salmon fishing. 2 months later, it was revealed that sewage spills into rivers and seas by Southern Water had nearly doubled in a year. See what I'm saying? They don't care about the fines. Off what? Southern boss Lawrence Gosden claimed that the price hike was in fact driven by... Get this. Grip onto something firm, you're not going to like it. The reason that they're raising prices, says Southern boss Lawrence Gosden, is in fact because it is driven by its customers and that it committed the company to meeting their expectations. They're raising their prices because their customers want them to meet their expectations. That's why it's costing you more. Because you're expecting too much. Gosden accepted a bumper bonus this year because of course he did, and so too did his chief financial officer Stuart Ledger, who received the bonus of £128,000, taking his total pay for the year for 610 grand. Nice to know that they are sufficiently enthused. And what's the word? What's the word? Oh, no. What is the word? They I forgot what the word is. The word that I was just using that that nice lady who's running the Yorkshire Waters said, incentivised. That's it. And my mind is, I'm so upset, I'm actually blocking out whole sentences now. She wants to be incentivised. And if you or I poured poison into a river or off a beach, we'd be in jail now with the Just Stop Oil people. If they'd poured soup... if they'd thrown soup at a wall and someone had touched a famous painting, then these water company bosses would be in jail now. But because they'd just poured millions of gallons of raw sewage into our rivers and streams and lakes and seas, then it's just a small fine and they carry on doing the same thing again. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
This is preposterous!
It is preposterous. Why isn't somebody doing something about it? This text says CDs fit in Christmas stockings. No, they don't. Well, it depends, I suppose, how big they are. If it's a stocking, one that you would ordinarily put on your feet, then they're good for tangerines, and that's about it. But if it's one of those bought as a Christmas stocking, then, yeah, they might do. You might be able to squeeze one in. CDs fit in a Christmas stocking, so the number one single was often bought as an office party Secret Santa gift. I can't remember what that was in relation to. Maybe we were just talking about the Christmas number one. Probably were, because this from Connor says, the best Christmas number one was Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name, beating X Factor rubbish Merry Christmas. Says Connor. I am unfamiliar with the work of Rage Against the Machine, but I'm sure it is excellent in every regard.
Rock and roll!
0345 6060 973. Mill Hill. Fran and Terry. Are we on speakerphone?
Yes, hi. It's Fleur and Terry. It isn't Fran. It's Fleur and Terry. And yes, with Mill Hill, looking very excited. And yes, can't wait.
Can't wait for what?
Oh, sorry, I thought you was going to have us sing it to the nation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you...
Oh, we seem to have run out of time on that call. That is disappointing when that happens. I hate that. This text says, I only got 2 cards this year. I have got no family, no friends, no neighbours, or anyone close to me. What more do I need to do to avoid receiving them? Tried everything. Tried making themselves deeply unpopular, and still they come. James says, remember when Ringo Starr warned everyone with peace and love to stop sending him fan mail? No, I don't. I remember when Ringo Starr asked people to stop asking him to sign things. God, it must be so annoying. I mean, nice to have all the money and all, but the fame part doesn't appeal to me at all. I mean, particularly somebody as famous as he is. Somebody who's been in people's lives and been a significant and important part of their lives for pretty much their entire life. And they feel as though, I guess they would feel as though that Ringo or the star owes them. And so they don't feel any compunction about coming up and, asking him for stuff. Can I have some of your hair? That kind of thing. Can you sign me bottom? That sort of thing. So I think I'd probably be deeply annoying. And selfies, constant selfies. And you just don't want to, I would imagine. I mean, you don't feel your best. You don't want a picture that makes you look awful all over the internet. So, yeah, I totally get that. I'm with you, Ringo. Craig says, regarding the woman with a small wrist who was sent back to jail, give her a big tag and wrap it around her wrist twice. Yeah, there's got to be something other than sending that nice lady to jail over Christmas. What for? Who is benefiting from that? It's costing us an enormous amount of money for a start. Might as well put her up at the Ritz. It costs so much to put somebody in jail. And I thought jails were full to bursting as well. That doesn't speak very well about this country, does it? We're locking up 77-year-old nice old ladies because they tried to protest about the disastrous road that we're headed down. And because we can't find the infrastructure in order to put it around her wrist so it won't slip off, we're sending her to jail? Why? I mean, here's an idea, skier. You haven't had a very good start to your premiership. I mean, you've upset pretty much, well, everybody so far. I mean, I understand that things take time and, good things may be barreling down the road at us, but why don't you, make somebody's Christmas and pour a little of the nation's love over yourself by letting that nice old lady out of jail? And there's no point in standing behind, oh, well, it's got nothing to do with me, and that's just the wheels of law and order, taking their time. Nonsense. Just do it. I mean, if necessary, march down to the jail yourself and bring her out to a round of applause and a hail of flashbulbs. I mean, there's a golden opportunity staring you in the face right there. Cancel your Christmas holidays and make that nice lady a free person again. This sext. It's not a sext, it's a text. Please don't send me any sexts. It says, I couldn't agree more with your last caller. Now, keep in mind that this was last night. I'm still getting through last night's. How many more of them are there? Oh, my God, pages. Pages, pages and pages. And how many of them are there from today? Oh, this is ridiculous, people. Stop texting me and call me. It's much easier and quicker to use your mouth than it is to waggle your thumbs at your phone. And all I'm doing is just reading. It's like listen with mother, except it's me. John says, I send cards all year round just to practice my skills with a quill, inkwell and blotter. Well, you may be joking or you may not, but I do maintain that writing with an ink pen, a fountain pen, I don't know about a quill, probably not, but a fountain pen is a very, very good thing. It's enormously satisfying. It slows your hand down and improves your writing skills. It will improve the look of your writing. Believe me. And they're not that expensive, but they do sort of dry up a lot. Unless you use them all the time, then they do dry up. Maybe it's just that I bought a cheap one, but it doesn't seem to work anymore. Never mind, eh? You know me, I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
0345 6060 973. Sam Batch. Hello, John.
You mentioned about 90-odd million pound fines. Where does that money go? Is there any tag kept on it? Is it going back into the... Giving them back to them and say, look, we told them it was a fine.
Well, I want... Is there any evidence that these companies have actually been fined? Because they could just tell us, we fined this company £500 million. But where's the evidence, though? I mean...
Yeah, where's the proof?
Yeah, where is the proof? Exactly.
I mean, it sounds great, doesn't it? We fined them £90 billion. Oh, yeah, and where the hell is it, mate? you know.
Yeah, where's our money? Exactly right. They should distribute it to us, even if it's a small amount. I mean, every little helps. We could go out and buy a coffee or something.
Well, just a fraction of that would pay for that lady's bracelet.
Yeah, we could just pick somebody at random. We could make it like a game or like a lottery. Everybody takes a ticket, and if a water company gets fined £90 million, then we could just distribute it between, let's say, 9 people, each one of which would be a 10 millionaire.
But they wouldn't be allowed to buy any shares in water.
In water, no. Well, you'd be a right mug to do that, wouldn't you? Just pour it back into the company? No.
Yeah. But I think Ofwat says this, we're going to find these and we're going to find them. Oh, yeah, well, put your money where your mouth is and show us where it is.
Yeah, where is it? Exactly right. I think they just chuck it into this bottomless pit where all our money goes, and then what happens to it, nobody knows.
And who signs for it? Who
signs for it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they're not taking it around in a suitcase. Who signs for it? Well, the bloke on the desk.
Well, I don't know about that suitcase thing. You never know. I mean, the things go on in life that you think, they really carry that kind of money around in a suitcase.
No, it's if they get fined an amount of money, they will say, well, we'll just put it on the bills, and then the public can pay for us being fined for ruining the nature that the public enjoys.
Or give it back to the public, the users themselves.
Yeah, a discount on our bills would be a good idea. Yeah. It's just absolutely infuriating, isn't it?
Are we the most corrupt country in the world?
Quite possibly, yes. Well, there was that Italian investigator who used to investigate the mafia.
Absolutely.
And he said that we were the most corrupt country in the world, not because of the water companies, but because of the infrastructure in the city of London that the international criminal super rich come and wash their cash through.
Yeah, and the Respect Party, what is it? A party for the rich, by the rich, of the rich. And you just want some idiots to vote for them. And there's loads of them lining up who've got no money at all.
The Respect Party, REPCETC, Respect, just a little bit. All right, thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. You can text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. If you are on WhatsApp, then it is the same number as the phone, 0345 6060 973. Just a reminder that the A to Z of 2024 starts 10 o'clock sharp, Monday. It's a day early to start this year and finishes 2 days early. It's Monday to Sunday, starting this coming Monday at 10. Just 2 days, and then we're off. The A to Z of 2024 starts 10 p.m. this Monday, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Oh, hello.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
Yes, what we got here is a failure to understand that darts is not a sport.
No.
No, it's a pastime. How can it be a sport? If darts is a sport, then poker is a sport. Just because they've got it on the sports channel doesn't mean to say it's a sport. I'm just saying. If you can play it while being fat at the highest level, then it's not a sport, it's a pastime. So that also goes with motor racing, and that's a fact. And golf. And cricket. What else? This text says, I have more plenty of ideas similar to the rain tax. These are all from, maybe I should start on tonight's, because I'm never going to get through them all. I'm never going to get... Oh, my God, there's so many. How many pages? This text says, I'll start today's, because there's not enough time in a brief show to read all of the texts that come in. This text says 45th President Donald Trump, 46th President Joe Biden, 47th President Elon Musk. The internet's absolutely full of those memes suggesting that Donald Trump is in the back with a kiddie's steering wheel, thinking that he's in control, but he's sitting in the back seat, and Elon Musk is up front. He's driving. Vice President Donald Trump.
Oh, shut up!
That's what people are saying. And you would think that would really, really annoy him. I mean, he's going to pretend that it doesn't annoy him, but it's really going to eat him up from the inside. Jane says, Nick, have you noticed no calls from Jonathan from Harrow since you surprised him with your question about whether he knew somebody at the end of a call a couple of weeks ago? I quite miss him, says Jane. Yeah, I didn't mean to burst his bubble. I was going through some old clips for my my best of thing, which comes out on a Monday. It's called the Nick Abbott Habit. I think you'll love it. And it was from a couple of years ago, and I thought, God, I wonder if that's who that is. And so I just presented him with the evidence, and it shut him right up. Unfortunately, I shouldn't have said anything. Oh, well, never mind. We'll just add it to life's little disappointments. Let's have a call in Bayswater. Hello, Eleanor.
Oh, hi. I couldn't resist ringing up because I have an absolute hatred of the financial system used by the water companies.
Yes.
I think it's called First Equity, but it specialises in bankrupting companies. Now, in the case of a smaller company like Planet, no one cared about saving it. I mean, there was an article in the Financial Investors Chronicle on the subject.
Oh, I'm unfamiliar with that organ, but I'm sure it is excellent in every regard.
Well, it's now been swallowed up by the Financial Times.
Oh.
But I used to.
Sorry to hear of its demise.
Well, it's hard to get hold of it, basically. Yeah. But the thing is, for example, in the case of Thames Water, it was debt-free when it was acquired.
Yes.
And the company, I think the Australian, then sold all the assets.
I think they borrowed against the assets, didn't they, rather than sell them?
Well, basically, they built up a debt through the abuse of the assets.
Yeah, they built up a debt of unimaginable size and gave that debt to themselves as dividends. Thereby taking all of the money out of the business, leaving it saddled with vast debt, while they waltzed off. Well, they must have been. I bet they wake up laughing.
Well, this is the technique of this particular form of trade.
Yeah.
And it's worth trying to get hold of this Investors Chronicle thing. But anyway, so I just wanted to ring up about it.
Right.
I mean, they're nothing better than crooks, basically.
It does appear as though if you were trying to organise your business on the same in the same way that they organise their business, that you would probably be in jail, Eleanor. But because if you owe a bank £500, then you're in trouble. If you owe a bank £500 million, then they're in trouble. I think that's how it works. All right.
Could I just say one more thing?
Yes, Eleanor.
You might remember Fred Hoskins, who bankrupted the NatWest.
Fred wasn't Hoskins. Wasn't Fred Hoskins? Wasn't he the guy who did How on children's television? Or was that somebody else? No, it was Fred. Fred the Shred.
Well, the Fred Hoskins was the director of the NatWest, and he bankrupted them.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Fred Hoskins. It was somebody else.
Yeah.
He was the. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, the thing is, there was a lot of discussion afterwards because he was given a massive payoff.
Of course.
And
in order to incentivise him to leave the building.
But anyway, he was given a massive payoff. And and he went up to Scotland, where he lives.
Right.
And apparently, the Scots were so infuriated that they started sort of damaging his car.
Well, I think it happened once, and this is ancient history now, and I'm pretty sure it's not Hoskins. It was Fred somebody. I can't remember what his name is.
But anyway,
I probably put it in a part of my brain that I've closed and walked away from.
But anyway, he gave up some of his payoff.
Yeah,
he said.
big deal.
He said he went and worked for a big firm of architects afterwards.
Yeah, right.
Ram Jam. But anyway, the thing is, I thought it might be a good idea if some of the people who try to stop oil did a bit of work along those lines with the directors.
Well, I think it would be a good idea if the Just Stop Oil people swapped places with everybody that we've just been talking about, the people that have been running our water industry into the ground, because they should be spending Christmas in jail, not that nice lady whose wrists are too small.
Well, I think if there's some clever financial trick which stops them from being jailed, which I think is absolutely shocking.
The clever financial trick, Eleanor, is called being rich.
Yes, but it's also, there's probably some loophole somewhere. Yeah. But I think that they should be given a treat in the form of maybe suet, where they don't want it.
Suet? Are you saying suet or sewage?
Sewage.
Sewage, right. Yeah, on their Christmas dinner plate, perhaps. See how they like it. All right, well, try not to blow a gasket, Eleanor. Deep breaths. 0345 6060 973. Martin texts, Nick, what about the drones? The US say they are not foreign and they're not their own. So whose are they? We all know, but they won't talk about it. We all know. How do we know? What do you know, Martin? Or is it Martian? He says, I hope that they land soon and I'm happy to be taken over by them. Yeah, not probed, but taken over, certainly, yeah. Every day there seems to be some other story about somebody who you would... Oh, hang on, I'm going to sneeze. Woo! Oh, that was fabulous. Oh, I am completely satisfied. Oh, I need to lie down and a cigarette. Oh, that's really taken it out of me. I don't believe I've ever had so much fun. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Every day there's somebody whose word you would trust. I mean, just today it was an astronaut, an actual astronaut, if you please. He said that he saw two spherical objects which flew very close to whatever he was in. I can't remember the actual craft that he was in. It's probably not a spacecraft. It was a plane, perhaps. But he was doing his astronaut thing. And two spherical objects flew by, and it was most peculiar. Had no explanation for it. And neither does the American government have any explanation for it. They keep saying that we're not in danger, but if they don't know what it is, how do they know that? And do they actually have the technology to put spherical objects in the sky that don't come up on radar? And they don't have a heat source, and there doesn't appear to be any way of locomoting them? All that seems very, very strange. Highly suspicious, I think. Hugh in Battersea says, Nick, the Merry Maidens Circle just outside St Just in Cornwall. I imagine that he's talking about a stone circle. Apparently there's either 900 or 9,000. Both of those numbers seem unlikely to me. I only know of one. And people were there and, they were doing their whole druid thing. Groovy. Because we have just gone past the darkest day of the year. It's the solstice. And people should be singing All Around My Hat or, one of those old tunes. People were they were stripping naked and painting themselves blue.
Disgusting.
You can believe that. Where people could see them. Alan says, I hope one has received your Jacob Rees-Mogg Christmas mug I sent you. No. One has not received one's Jacob Rees-Mogg Christmas mug one sent me. One sent one, I should say. No, but I would, I'd be appalled to use it. I don't think let me see what it's like first. I could always put something appalling in it. This text says, you should go to the USA for a holiday before Donald Trump and Elon Musk become president. You have been rude about Donny and he would take pleasure in punishing you. Yeah, well, I'm sure he would. Here is my prediction. I mean, they've started already, so it's not much of a prediction. But first they're going to go after the news organisations, and they're doing that. Any news organisation that has been mean to Donny is going to be slapped with some kind of legal, what do you call them? A legal suit. Not one of those misshaped suits that Donny has made for his massively wide legs.
Oh, shut up!
Not those suits. A legal suit. They're going to be slapped with a legal suit just in order to shut the press up. I mean, it's a demagogue class 101. And then they're going to come after the comedians. I betcha. Because if there's one thing a wannabe dictator does not like, it's being made fun of. I bet they're going to start suing comedians. And it doesn't really matter if the legal suits have any merit or whether they're going to win or not. That's going to make absolutely no difference to them whatsoever because they have all the money in the world. And they'll be able to tie people up in lawsuits, be able to tie them up in court, and they'll have to spend an enormous amount of their own money just defending themselves against these ridiculous lawsuits that are going to be raining down like, from heaven, or up from hell, more like. And they're going to go after comedians. I betcha. Anybody want to take that bet? They're going to go after the news organisations. They've done that already. And then the news organisations are crawling across the carpet, begging to be, begging to kiss the ring. I mean, they're just giving up. It's amazing. They're like, oh, well, never mind. To hell with the news. We'll just print whatever you like, Donny, for fear that you're going to sue us. And the Wall Street Journal did it, and I think the LA Times, they folded. And I think maybe the New York Times was the only one so far that major newspaper in America that has stood up to him. Although perhaps I've missed the news. And now he's going after the small papers. I bet comedians are next. Those late night TV show hosts, I bet they're reining themselves in just at the very idea that they're going to get sued. I think last time his tenure in the White House was just comical. This time it's going to be really unpleasant. I mean, he himself is going to be the same clownish buffoon, but the people he's surrounded himself now are really unpleasant and nasty, and they've got the money to get what they want. And what they want is more money. How you can have billions and billions and billions of dollars and still be obsessed about getting more, I don't know. I think it's an illness. It is a sickness. Having that much money turns you into some sort of weird freak. Unless you have to be a weird freak in the first place to make that much money. It's one or the other. Can't tell.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
You've got a good... your mind is a little bit, three-dimensional.
No, I do not know what you mean. Elaine texts, I always put last year's card out and put it on the mantelpiece for my now ex-husband. He never noticed. For about 8 years, he had the same card. Maybe that's why he is my ex, says Elaine. Good choice there, Elaine. Get somebody with, a little bit more acumen, who has, their wits about them. Cumbernauld, Andrew.
Good evening, Nick. Good to talk to you again.
Andrew.
Just to say that the Fred of the Royal Bank of Scotland was Fred Goodwin.
Goodwin, that's right.
The chap, practically unemployable after he left RBS.
Yeah, but what does he care? He's absolutely rolling in it.
Yes. And just to say, as far as Trump suing comedians is concerned, you're absolutely right, because he's already done it.
Has he?
Oh, yes. You'll know the...
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher,
yeah,
yes.
That's right. I've forgotten about that. Yeah, Bill Maher compared him to an orangutan, and Donald Trump tried to sue him for $5 million.
Correct, because it dated back to the time when Trump was doubting Obama's being American-born.
His birth
so he wanted Obama's birth certificate and promised $5 million to charity if he produced it.
Right.
So Bill Maher turns around and says, I think you're spawn of an orangutan, and I'll donate $5 million to charity if you can prove that you're not.
Yes,
so,
right.
And he said, well, here's my birth certificate, I want my $5 million, and he filed a lawsuit in a New York court to say, right, where's my $5 million? So he's already got form. So you're absolutely right.
Except this time around, it's not going to be a joke. He's going to really go after everybody that criticises him in any way, because that's the first thing that a dictator will do. First, get the people who know things, the teachers and the experts. You want to get rid of all of those straight away, because you don't want anybody saying no. The dear leader has got it wrong. You don't want the kid to say the king has got no clothes. The king is in the all together. He's all together. He's all together. He's all together. You know that one?
Yeah, and it just shows you that Trump has the most fragile of egos.
Yes, he does.
If you prod at it and make fun of him, he just
can't take it. I know he does. Yeah, that's right.
If I was as rich as he, genuinely as rich as he claims to me, I wouldn't care what anyone said about me. As long as it wasn't positively libelous, I wouldn't care.
Yeah, I wouldn't care either. I mean, if I made $400 million a year, I wouldn't care either.
I make $400 million a year, so what difference does it make?
Yeah, what difference does it make, Donny?
Yeah, you could say what you like about your parentage, and you'd say, yeah, whatever. I know the truth.
Who cares?
Say what you like. Who cares? So look forward to him spending the rest of his days filing lawsuits and forgiving people and pardoning people and
and just being the despicable human being that everybody knows that he is. I mean, you'd think that he would want to maybe clean up his reputation, but he's going to do that by stopping people saying nasty things about him rather than stopping doing nasty things.
Correct.
All right, thanks a lot, Andrew. 0345 6060 973. Of course, the people of Scotland love Donald Trump. They love him, LUV, yes? No. Phil in Port Talbot says, Nick, eating the same amount over Christmas so you don't need to buy a new set of clothing. Where's the fun in that? Also, I sent you a Christmas card. Does that mean that I am now officially old? No, Phil, but it does mean that I am officially grateful. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for all the cards and the presents, by the way. Very nice. That was one that held over from last night. I'll do one more, and then that's it, and then I'm on today's. This one says, the water companies should be bankrupted and then claimed by the government on the basis of national security. The debts owed would be wiped out, the shareholders would lose their investment, and the bosses go to prison, possibly for treason. This will also mean that inflation goes down since bankruptcy is a way to reduce the money in the system. Well, I don't know about the last part, but I'm fully on board with all the parts just before it. The party of the first part gets my vote, no doubt. 0345 6060 973. Oldbury. Hello, Ranjit.
Hi, Nick.
Yes, Ranjit.
You know this list he's got here of people he's gonna go and get here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to radio talk show hosts and people that phone in those calls, I think I might just change my voice and change my location and call in, okay? All right?
If I were you, Ranjit, I'd be on the run right now.
No, you know when you say teachers and that, right? I was just talking to your presenter and you said the same thing, what I was saying to him. I think it's come to the point now, you know what? Just live and let these people, if they want to suffer, let them carry on suffering, right? Because they are voting these kind of people in, who beat you up with a stick. When the stick breaks, they say, sir, I've got a spare stick, you can beat me up again if you want.
Well, this is the one thing that, it's not really a pleasant thought, but it's slightly comforting that the people who will suffer the most under a Donald Trump presidency are the poor people in the middle of America that voted for him.
Yeah, but what can they do? They voted him in. That's fine. I understand that now. You know, when they suffer, right? Who can they go crying to? They can't go crying to mummy.
Well,
right?
they're going to blame the liberal left wokerati for undermining the orange Jesus. That's what they're going to do. But I don't know how far they're going to be able to get with that, because he's going to have both houses and the Supreme Court and all of the other courts underneath and the presidency itself. I mean, how much more power do you need? So it's all going to be on Donny. I just wonder who they're going to blame when it doesn't go well for them.
And one thing, don't cut me. But you know that phrase you use, "kiss his ring." Can you change that phrase?
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
I'm not going to, because it really gives me mad thoughts. Yeah.
What? Let me ask you a question about Christmas, because you're about to shut up shop.
Yeah, well, we're opening Monday and Tuesday, and then we're shutting up shop. Yeah.
Right. So after that, what happens to all the Savoys in the jar?
They're all in the freezer. We only take them out enough at a time.
Right. Do you do pickled eggs?
Yeah.
What happens to them?
They just stay in the job.
I guess because they're pickled, they'll just last forever.
Yeah. I mean, why do you have a use by date on a preservative? Because it's supposed to last forever, isn't it? You know.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you put in a preservative to preserve it? Except for more preservative. Yeah, good point.
If you can figure that out, right, then you can figure out all the problems of the world.
All right, leave it with me.
Listen, you know what? I'm going to wish you a happy New Year and a Merry Christmas, and all that, and all your family that listen to this show. We are a family. People like Mike, Jeff, and Malcolm, and
we
all
are
the other.
family.
We are family. Yeah. What's happened to Jonathan? I haven't heard from him since you asked him that question. You know.
I know.
I think you rumbled him, didn't you?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's on the run. No idea.
We're all on the run.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is now, you know, like when you call him a Bond villain, right? There's a lady that comes into the shop. She's well educated and she's got a lot of family in America. And I was talking to her. I says, you know what a Bond villain is? Yeah. She goes, yeah. I says, you know what Elon Musk is? A Bond villain.
Yeah.
And now you got Zuckerberg and what's his name, Jeff Bezos, whatever, Bezos, yeah. They're all crawling around him because how can one person, Donald Trump, right, who's got, you know, the reading age of a probably 13-year-old, yeah, how can he control all these people? Surely he's got people around him who can say to him, Mr. President, no, you're not doing that. Child,
the reason, I'll give you the reason. The reason that all of these super rich people and media organisations and these corporations are all crawling across the carpet trying to gain his favour is because he is a baby. And what would you do? What would you do with a baby? You would treat them with the utmost care and attention, just so they don't start wailing. Wouldn't you? That's what they're doing.
You know adults, right? Reasonable adults. I've been on jury service, right? Okay,
have you?
I've been on jury. You know, at lunchtime we went down to the local pub, yeah. You know, just to the two opposing barristers were having lunch together, right? Because they are educated people who do their job, you know, in the court. And after that, shake hands and walk away. So now they're going about Peter Mandelson going over there, right? And is he, you know, if the most powerful man in the world is going to hold a grudge, right, against like David Lammy and Peter Mandelson, he should not be in power.
Well, I know that, yeah, but that's the reason everyone is very, very like genuflecting in front of him, is because he's like a baby with a machine gun. You don't want... That's exactly what he's like. He's a baby with a machine gun. Here, Ranjit, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. It's not because they respect him. It's because, well, you would too. You'd fear a baby with a machine gun. Don't make any sudden moves.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we're doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, and we're coming up to our 300th episode. And if you were listening at the beginning of the programme, somebody called, no they didn't, they texted in with an excellent idea about what we should do for our 300th programme, because we've been absolutely bereft of ideas. I didn't have any, not a clue. And somebody said, why don't you get people to write in with their sort of random important dates? And then me and Carol will discuss them. I mean, it could be your wedding anniversary or the anniversary of you buying your car or anything at all. That's a good idea. So if you just send a lot of them, then that will give us, plenty of material to chew over, and I'm sure it will be highly amusing. It's Nick and Carol at global.com. NICKANDCAROL at global.com. And the text is as follows. The idea for the 300th podcast, do something about milestones. Random milestones. Ones that people aren't really sure whether to celebrate or not. Sad milestones, or happy milestones, or, milestones in the middle. That's an excellent idea. So we'll do that, as long as we get enough material. Nick and Carol at global.com. NICKANDCAROL at global.com. And if you send them in, then we will be totally satisfied. We appreciate it, don't we, Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, our 300th episode will be taped on, I think, the 2nd of January, to come out on the following Monday, the 6th, I believe it is. So if you can get them in then that would be great. And we appreciate it. Nick and Carol at global.com. Milestones, because we're coming up to our 300th episode. So we've got to do something. And that sounds like a pretty good idea to me. 0345 6060 973. Let's have West Devon. Hello, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Rose.
Rick. Well, I wanted to talk about music.
Yes.
And also about writing letters which nobody publishes.
Right.
First of all, I thought it was great that McCartney and Ringo was singing at the O2. Sorry, my mouth's gone a bit funny. I was reading about it. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know what it is. I was reading about it. Now, a major inspiration to McCartney has been Bach. And yet, this is what's getting to me lately. There's this movement lately to paint so-called classical music relaxing. 20,000 people didn't throng the streets at Beethoven's funeral because he'd been sending them to sleep.
No, it's not sending to sleep. Relaxing is completely different. I tune to classical music to be relaxed, to have something, pleasant. Here's the thing with me. I don't know anything about classical music. You play me, other than the one that goes da-da-da-da, and I know what that is.
Well, that's not relaxing.
No, not at all. But I can recognise it. Other than that, it's just pleasant background music to me. Now, I know that will upset a purist, such as yourself, perhaps.
No, that's your right.
All right.
Yes, if that's how you want to hear it.
But that's what I want from classical music. I want it, just a little lift on the day.
Yes. Yeah, OK, that's fine for you. But the thing is, what it's missing is that it's so much more than that.
Right.
And, people are just going to think all it is wallpaper. And, there could be words like exultation, joy, deep emotions, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I get
all
that.
Example,
but that's not what I want.
You're not stupid.
But that's not what I want from classical music. I will get all that from rock music or soul or jazz or something like that.
You get the background from Andy... What was his name?
Who?
Perry Como or Mantovani or something, for heaven's sake.
No,
No, well, you see, the thing is, you are picking up the quality, even though you're not fully listening, aren't you? That's the thing.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I like the hits. I like the tunes that I know already. I'm not a person who will sit there and listen to a whole side of a Deutsche Grammophon release. I'm just not. I can't really get into classical music in the same way that I can get into rock and jazz and soul.
You see, this is it. I think one's mind, you do get into one thing and it's difficult to shift to another. Yeah. No, I completely take your point, but I really just wanted to make this point. An example I heard recently, for instance, which would express things better. We'll have a salute to the master Johann Sebastian Bach, who has buoyed us all up in difficult times. And what followed that was this blaze of glorious sound, trumpets, everything the lot, layers and layers of voices at different harmonies. There's no way you could have sort of dozed off. And, I was just, up there. And the speaker was Sean Rafferty. And it's broken my heart, literally, Nick, that he's been dropped from his programme. He's got an MBE for services to broadcasting.
Right, it seems to me that you're
too old and too good.
Right, you've told me this before, and I'm yes, and I'm unfamiliar with his work even to this point. But
well, that's all right.
People come and people go. I don't know anything about it.
That's okay. Well, that's just to say it's broken my heart.
Right.
But I just feel he's too good for them. Everything's now with the BBC's got to be anodyne. Not too moving, not too.
Right. Well, you don't mind if I don't talk about them here, do you?
No, I've stopped talking about it. I just wanted to say, I don't know if other people have had this sort of experience where you've wanted to write to express your view.
I
you
wouldn't bother.
hone your letters for ages. Like you were saying about speeches last night, and you know, and then it just dies because you can't get them printed, and so you just have to fade away and quieten down, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Still, the top of the season to you, Rose.
Yeah, you too, mate. I hope you get my Christmas card. I did post it.
Oh, well, thanks in advance.
Cheers, mate.
Ta-da, 0345 6060 973. This text says, what's wrong with handkerchiefs? Oh, where do I even begin? I mean, apart from them being revolting, it says, I use one every day and I'm younger than you. Well, only numerically. Handkerchiefs. No one, I mean, I just cannot believe that anybody still uses a handkerchief. You blow your nose and then you want to carry that around with you? Oh, God. Why? Are tissues not available where you live? Val in London says, my mum used to boil hankies in a big saucepan. Brackets, never used for cooking. Well, I would hope not. Andrew says, my mum used to boil my dad's handkerchiefs in an enamel bowl on the cooker next to the boiled spuds. The good old days, eh, Nick? No.
No, 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 no.
That is revolting. Handkerchiefs. I mean, how did that ever become a thing? Because we always had toilet rolls. You could just pull off some toilet roll and carry that around with you. And, you know, when you used it, then you just throw it away. Not carry around a cotton receptacle for your... I can't believe that people are still doing that. I mean, I get that a certain type of person who dresses a certain way would want to put one in their top pocket, you know, if they want to be, I don't know. What kind of a person uses a handkerchief in their top pocket these days anyway? Apart from Smug.
I don't know anything.
I bet he does. But, you know, an ordinary person carry around a handkerchief with them. I mean, I suppose at most you would want to accent your tie if that is the sort of get-up that you go out in. But other than that, actually using a handkerchief for blowing your nose and then carrying it around with you, oh, God, that is just awful. I mean, what other detritus that comes out of you would you want to carry around with you? It's just awful. I'm getting actually quite bilious just thinking about it. Will text, anyone who has ironed socks has their socks ironed for them. Yeah, that's probably right. I don't think anybody in the history of humankind has ever ironed their own socks. And if you've got somebody to iron your socks for you, then what are they not doing while they're doing that? Probably better to get them to do the thing that they're not doing while you're getting your socks ironed than ironing your socks, because their time would be better used doing anything else. Ashford. Peter.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, Peter.
Pleasure to speak to you. Firstly, before I get to the topic, may I take this opportunity to wish you a very merry Yuletide, not Christmas. And
why not Christmas?
Also, of course, because the Christians, as you know, stole everything that the Christmas celebrations are all about from the pagans.
Pagan festival.
It started with the solstice being the first of the 12 days of feasting and celebrations.
Yeah.
Booze. And the Yule log, that came from the tradition of taking a massive piece of oak into the house, the hall rather, and burning that, and then the villagers were allowed to take a piece of that back home to keep their own hearth going.
Is that right?
Spring.
I did not know that.
Oh yes, that's where the Yule log comes from. And the wreath that goes on people's doors.
Yeah.
A lot of people like. That's called a Yule wreath, and again, that comes from the Old Norse word Yule, which is the wheel, and the wheel it refers to is the great cosmic wheel, which has now turned full circle.
A Yule is a wheel in Norse.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes.
The stuff you learn on this show.
Know.
Educational, no?
Yes.
No? Yeah, every now and again it actually is.
It is, yes. I just thought you might be familiar with some of that.
Well, yes,
Most
but
people don't.
I'm also familiar with the fact that the reason that Christmas is here is because it is around about the shortest day, and that was the point of celebration, because here comes the light.
That's exactly the reason, yes. The winter solstice, a lot of people think summer solstice was the big celebration, but it actually was the winter solstice because it marked the beginning of the return to light, and it was an occasion when ancestors and the fallen were celebrated. A place was set at the table for departed relatives, people who'd fallen in battle, whatever it might be.
Don't you think it's extraordinary that that they then, I mean, when they were living in caves and they didn't even have a handkerchief to their name, they could figure out which was the shortest day?
Oh, yes.
I find that extraordinary.
They were able to keep count of the seasons and divide the year into seasons very logically, but of course they weren't aware of the exact number of days in a year, so they did the best they could, and they marked the shortest day because it always occurred at that time of year, of course.
They marked the shortest day, but people also mark the longest day as well, because the Stonehenge is oriented in order to the light to hit it in a certain way on the longest day. I just find it incredible that they then could figure that out, whereas even with a calendar, kids today wouldn't be able to figure that out. They wouldn't have any idea.
Well, there's another interesting thing. If you ever get the chance to watch a programme called Ancient Apocalypse, it explains an awful lot about the reasons why so many buildings are orientated towards either the summer solstice or the winter solstice, a lot of it being in South America. And it's absolutely fascinating. But it's nothing to do with aliens. They think that there may have been an Ice Age civilization that was wiped out when the ice caps melted and caused cataclysmic devastation, possibly to Atlantis. And that's where the survivors decided they wanted to take civilization around the world. And these stories of people coming from the sea and all sorts of strange stories about very often a single or a couple of people who were very wise and taught them about agriculture, building, and all sorts of other wonderful things, civilization effectively. And it's really, really interesting. And the number of buildings that actually do have this alignment is staggering around the world.
Well, I am sitting here staggered. If I was standing up, I'd be staggering right now.
Thank you. Well, the main thing I rang in for, actually, was my wife came up with an excellent suggestion, which I think was worthy of your approval. And that is to say that the water companies, the shareholders, are not necessarily the crooks, but the people that, these directors and so on, are criminally negligent. There's no doubt about it.
Well, they're not in jail for polluting our most famous and beloved waterways. It's just astonishing to me.
I can't believe it, and I don't understand, with the majority that Keir Starmer has, that he hasn't acted immediately to strip them and nationalise them and put these people in jail for the devastation, the damage to the environment, pollution, etc.
I mean, I keep coming back to if I did it, if I poisoned Lake Windermere, for instance, for crying out loud, Lake Windermere, one of the most famous and loved stretches of water on Earth, then I would be in jail, no question.
For God knows how many years, and rightly so. And yet, these, I won't swear, these people are getting away with literally murder in many cases. That's how bad it is. And the fact that mendacious council-headed buffoon Boris Johnson is still at liberty to write the drivel that he writes in the Mail is also an astounding...
Yes, I know. I couldn't agree more. He's ruffling his hair just so because he thinks it's charming.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And he's travelling the world trying to sell people his book. Which I think is Everything's Worse Without Me. I think that's what the title is, something like that.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Well, as I say, my lovely wife has come up with this great idea.
Well,
and that is
I tell you what,
she
Peter,
should do. Sorry,
you should listen to your lovely wife more. That's my recommendation to you. And I appreciate you passing her message on. Thanks a lot.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
What are you talking about?
This, that and the other. Handkerchiefs, mostly. Gary in Cardiff says, Nick, I've been thinking about your Christmas card observations. My 89-year-old great-aunt is the only person in the family who posts cards and gets very upset not to receive any in return. But if she does receive a card in the post, she records who has sent the card with a first or second-class stamp. Those who send via second class are regarded as tight. She has nothing to do but all day to do it in. Bless her, says Gary. 0345 6060 973. Hartlepool. Hello, Graham.
Hello there, Nick.
Graham.
Lovely programme.
Thanks.
I hope you're well and all set for Christmas.
I am very well. I've been keeping myself to myself so as not to catch the lurgy.
I don't blame you.
There's a lot of it about.
Oh, yes. On about using toilet paper for blowing your nose.
Yes.
It's unadvisable.
Is it?
Yes, because there's an infection in the toilet paper and the toilet roll that can affect the back part of your nose.
Is there?
Yes. That's why we can't take empty toilet rolls to schools for model making like we used to in the old days.
Because there's a... Well, what is it?
And during the manufacturing, there's an infection gets in, and they can't get it out, obviously. But we were foster carers for years, and we always supplied the primary schools the empty toilet rolls.
Yeah.
But you can't do it nowadays because of this risk.
Now, do you think that it's got nothing to do with the manufacturer? It's just what you do with the toilet roll once you have it, and where it is sited in your bathroom, right next to the toilet where you flush.
No, it's in the manufacturing.
And you're saying that in the manufacturing of toilet paper, there is a germ of some sort that gets in and they can't get it out?
Yes.
Not sure about that.
Google it. Google it. You'll find out that I'm right.
I hesitate to put anything in Google about toilet paper because I'll get no end of adverts enticing me to buy a particular brand of toilet paper.
Yes.
So no, I will not do that. I'll just take your word for it. How does that sound?
Yes, okay.
All right, excellent work.
I use paper hankies as well as I always carry a cloth hanky because I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, but you don't use it though, do you?
Yes. Only in extreme emergencies, and then I change it.
Don't tell me what constitutes an extreme emergency. Please, I'm begging you. All right, thanks a lot, Graham. 0345 6060 973. This one says, my nanny Meg used to wave her hanky from her second floor flat as I drove off after visiting her. I'm getting a mental image of that. I'm unsure if it was sadness that I was leaving or happy as she had the quiet back again. Either way, she was wafting germs into the atmosphere. Well, that very much depends on whether she'd used it or not, as a hanky. Nans used to stuff their hanky up their sleeves. You remember that? Or in their bra.
Disgusting.
You remember that? Graham says, Nick, I only got 9 cards this year. I used to get over 60. Mind you, a fair few people have died. Well, is that an excuse? Death? Not sure. Di says, I have not ironed anything for 20 plus years and I have cut my own hair since COVID. I look a mess, but don't give a damn. I save money and the planet, says Di.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Di. During COVID, I did almost cut my own hair. I went I did a lot of research about which hair clippers to buy, but I didn't actually go through with it. I just thought, no one's going to be seeing me anyway, and when I do go out, I'll have a mask on, so they can't tell who I am. To hell with it, I'll just suffer. No, never have actually cut my own hair. I know you can't tell, but I haven't. It says, you can send second-class Christmas cards for 85p. Just post a bit earlier. Yeah, or not at all. Then you'll save 85p. Says, I love Christmas cards. I have loved them since I was a little girl. Always excited to see who they are from and get news from people I haven't seen for a while. Merry Christmas. Yeah, I know. I did go on an unhinged rant about Christmas cards. And then today, when I opened a lot of Christmas cards that people had sent me, nice people listening to this show had sent me a Christmas card, and I felt sore ashamed. I don't mind admitting I was a little bit ashamed of myself. Yvonne says, hi, Nick. Reference the Royal Mail. I missed 2 hospital appointments due to delayed mail, and when I phoned the hospital, they told me it was a definite problem. What was a definite problem? The problem that you had, or the problem of delayed mail? You have to be more specific, Yvonne. This says, I have just received a letter asking for confirmation of life from the from the pension department of the UK. 4 weeks since it was sent. My son sent a card a month ago, not received. There's several thoughts in that one text which don't sit well together, unless I read it wrong. I have just received a letter asking for confirmation of life from the pension department. Well, right. I don't know, how do you prove that you're alive? I mean, how would you go about doing that? Because you could write back saying, yeah, I'm here, but how would they know it's you? And are you sure that you're alive? I mean, there's the other thing. Martin in King's Lynn says, blue people? You mean the Smurfs? No, the tall blue people out of the film with the flying dragons. I'm pretty sure it's a documentary. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nica@lbc.co.uk. If you're on WhatsApp, it's the same number as the phone.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie.
Here are the studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, several studio calls flashing up on the indicator, the first of which is a person in South Shields called Joanne. Joanne.
Good evening, Nick, and
yes.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, Joanne. Very nice of you.
Nick, 2 things. One about hankies, and the other is, can anyone remember Isle loo rule? If you went into any public loo in the 70s, you'd have to deal with that greasy paper.
Oh.
What was that about? Can you remember it?
Yes, I do. That was just hideous. I mean, presumably they provided... Yeah, that's right. Presumably they provided it as a cost-cutting measure, but you'd think it would cost more to make something that is covered... I mean, it was essentially plastic, wasn't it?
Yes. It smears more than it
smears, yes. There's a word you don't want to hear in connection with toilet roll. Smearing.
Disgusting.
Oh.
And the other thing, handkerchiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, I often think of Smug when you think of that and his Victorian fainting fits. But the most frightening handkerchief you can get is one waved by a Morris dancer.
Yeah, Morris dancing.
What's that all about? about.
What's that all about? Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, have a good Christmas, Nick,
All
to
right.
you and all your listeners.
Thanks a lot,
Bye.
Joanne. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, try blowing your nose in plastic paper.
Dreadful.
Awful. And you tell that to the kids today and they won't believe you. We used to have plastic-covered toilet paper. No, OK, it wasn't plastic-covered toilet paper, but it was like, I suppose the nearest equivalent is baking paper. In fact, that's probably exactly that, baking paper, cut into squares. Yeah, just awful. I mean, you just decide not to go. Ever. Clive in Sydney says, Nick, I won $95,000 in the lottery, and when asked by the newspaper what I would do with it, I told them I was going to buy a fridge. With $95,000. Wow, you could hide in a fridge that would cost that much, eh, Bodge?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
This says, Abbot, you need to understand these water company heads have incredibly stressful jobs. 500k is grossly underpaid for such a stressful job, unlike your job, losing your temper for a living. God, wouldn't that be marvellous if you could lose your temper for a living? The queue to get that job would be around the block. Be a very bad-tempered queue. Mark in Aberdeen says, Nick, in Scotland, Scottish water is still a public utility. We have 95% clean beaches, and my water charge this year is £34, payable as part of my council tax. Blimey. It's 20 times that south of the border. We are such mugs in this country. I mean, we really are. It's almost like we deserve everything we get. Bournemouth. Hello, Jean.
Oh, hiya. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, you were talking about pensions.
Was I?
Yeah, about whether you've got to prove that you're alive.
Oh, yes.
Right, well, I was a carer for my mother, and when she was due to collect a pension,
yeah,
I put in a claim on her behalf because she was disabled at that point.
Right.
And I got back a notice that it was only entitled to £21 a week. Now, what is interesting is they claimed to have no records of anything that she'd done. Unfortunately, I had kept some of her old paychecks. My dad paid married man's allowance, as it happens, you know.
Yeah.
And they did get divorced. I had to send her old paychecks, her decree nisi and absolute, to let them know they'd got it wrong. And they had to bump it up.
And did they?
Yes, they did. But they lost her in the ether. I actually had to fight to say, well, actually, she's paid this towards her pension. I'd paid that towards her pension.
And she's still alive.
DLA. Yes, yeah. She was on DLA and I had carer's allowance, but apparently she didn't exist.
Well, this is a life lesson, kids. Keep your paperwork. Exactly right. Keep your paperwork. I mean, I think legally you have to keep it for, was it 5 years or 6 years, something like that. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. But I would keep it for longer than that because, you know.
They were asking for paychecks back over 20 years.
Wow.
Luckily, I kept it all in a shoebox.
Did you?
Yeah, and a bank statement.
There's another thing you want to keep. Yeah, keep it on paper as well. Don't trust that it's always going to be available online because, you know,
computers do crash.
They do.
And they can go bottoms up.
AWOL, yeah.
But it's just a bit of advice because they do not like paying out money.
No, will do anything they can to avoid paying out what is owed. Exactly.
Particularly pensions.
Yes.
And my mum didn't have a huge amount of money, but she paid all her subs. But I think it was ridiculous that I had to prove she was still alive.
Yeah.
Like,
How did you do that, by the way?
Well, because they asked for all the paperwork.
Yeah, but how did you prove that she was still alive?
Well, I got her to speak on the phone.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was completely ridiculous.
And they bought that. I mean, it could have been anybody on the phone.
Well, I mean, there was also her doctor.
Right. Okay. A trained professional who, and a doctor is trained sufficiently enough to tell whether someone is alive or dead.
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
You couldn't make it up.
No.
I was gobsmacked.
Yeah. Okay, well, good work, Jean. And if you learnt nothing else from this show, then you'll have learnt nothing else from this show. But keep your paperwork. Good advice. Thanks, Jean. 0345 6060 973. This text says, just use the quiz show money from the previous caller to convert the water companies to a cooperative. I don't know what the previous caller was when you texted that in, but because presumably that was some while ago. This one says, we don't own any of our big companies, and the shareholders who have taken massive dividends are mostly foreign. Try getting our money back. Yeah. I know, but I think we're going to continue doing the same thing, expecting a different result. We're going to pay water companies more and expect them to use that money to fix our facilities. That seems like a stupid thing to do, to expect them to change their ways and act in our best interests. Should we just go ahead and assume that they will take whatever extra money that they load on their bills and give it to themselves as an inducement to do their own jobs? They're just going to take it. Because why wouldn't they? They've gotten away with it so far. Why would they change now? They'd have to be stupid to change now. Making so much money out of us mugs. Nick texts, Markle's happy holiday card showed no front view of the two children. Meanwhile, Wills and Kate show full face images of their 3 children. That's life in Montecito. What's life in Montecito? I haven't seen Markle's happy holiday card. Why would you want to see their faces? I mean, they usually blank their faces out anyway, don't they? With kids. Not remotely interested in any of them. But the papers are absolutely chock-a-block full of royal nonsense. I bet if I looked up a major news site right now and counted the amount of royal stories, not that there are any actual real royal stories, it's just fluff, but we just seem to be obsessed with it in this country. They just keep dangling these baubles in front of our faces to try to distract us from what is actually going on, which is like we're being robbed blind because we're just obsessed with princes and baronets and kings and queens, like we're living in some Disney cartoon. Oh, wake up, sheeple! It's later than you think. 0345 6060 973. Petersfield. Hello, Paul.
Oh, hello. Yeah, thanks for all your humour. There's a bit of humour in this.
Well, I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, you will. Milestones. I left school at 15 because I hated it and couldn't get on with it, and then ended up working in it for most of my working life.
You left school because you hated it, and then you went back to school to work in school.
Yeah. And I left school with no qualifications.
Yeah.
Because I gave up my... I shouldn't be saying all this because somebody might know who I am, but left education because I hated it, and I went to work when I was 15.
Yeah.
Up in London, and then went full circle, and then went into working in education, doing sort of teaching, and I just this week got a certificate from the headmaster for working 30 years.
30 years in a place that you couldn't wait to get out of. Wow. And how do you like it now?
Well, I'm just about hanging in there.
Right.
And I'm just sort of winding down now to retire. But yeah, so I might do another year, but that'll be about it.
Yeah, as much as you can stand. 31 years is a sufficient amount of time to spend doing something in a place that you hate.
Well, I didn't plan. It was just I went through a divorce. I had to bring up my son, and working in the educational establishment meant I could pick him up from school, right, and take him to school.
Well, whoever plans their life and plans their career is usually in for a series of disappointments, because life happens, and then you have to change your plans.
Well, absolutely. I'm just proud of myself now to pat myself on the back that I've got through it all.
You made it.
I made it. Now I've got to pay all my pension to the government in taxes. So,
right. Well, there is that.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good work. Thanks a lot, Paul. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. Now, he was responding to something that I was saying earlier on about a podcast that I do with Carol McGiffin, which is called "What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol?" And we're coming up to our 300th episode. The next one that we record will be our 300th. We're going to record it on the 2nd of January. It will be coming out on the 6th. And we were trying to figure out something to do for our 300th. I couldn't come up with anything. And then somebody wrote in and said, why don't you ask people to tell us, about their milestones, random milestones that people either would celebrate or wouldn't celebrate. Sad milestones, happy milestones, odd ones, that sort of thing. So if you let us know, then I think that would be an excellent way to celebrate our 300th with you, essentially. And the email address is nickandcarol@global.com. That's the email address for the podcast. nickandcarol@global.com. nickandcarol@global.com. And if you do that, then everybody will be totally satisfied. And the podcast, there's 299 available, is What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol.
This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hello, boys.
0345 6060 973. Let's see now. Lynn in Liverpool says, we used to have pillowcases for our toys at Christmas. Yes, well, yeah, we had a stocking, usually Dad's old stocking, in which you could fit a tangerine, although why tangerines are a thing at Christmas, I've got no idea. What have they got to do with Christmas? And a bag of chocolate money. And then the big stuff will go in the pillowcase, the ride-on choo-choo train and the Hot Wheels set, which are a thing again now, apparently. Hot Wheels, remember them? This text says, at least the 77-year-old lady in jail doesn't need to worry about the winter fuel payment. Well, I suppose so, but that's not a nice thought. Poor lady. I think it's an absolute outrage that woman is in jail because they can't find the infrastructure tiny enough to fit over her wrists so it won't slip off again. I mean, what are they expecting her to do? Leave the country? Go on the lam? She's 77 years old, for crying out loud. And they're putting her in jail because they can't find a tag small enough to fit on her wrists. And so she gets punished again. Not the company that is organising this, because of course it is one of those companies, one of those outsourcing companies, because it always blooming well is, isn't it? So they're not at fault. The managing director of that company isn't going to jail. It's that nice lady. What a way to run a country.
Dreadful.
Awful. Newcastle. Hello, Jed.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
I've just started to give you the cheery news that we're all doomed.
Are we?
Yes, I'm just making my way back.
Disappointing.
I'm making my way back from a military regimental reunion kind of do.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been talking to people from all strata of, like, society, from, like, people who own most of the country in offices and that, to, like, people who haven't been much of their lives, including me. And the whole conversation, you might thought we weren't talking about distribution of wealth or fair taxation or equal rights. Guess what the main topic conversation was?
Not Christmas.
We said Merry Christmas and stuff to each other,
but that's not having not having a conversation about it. No. You're going to have to tell me, Jed.
Immigration.
Really? You were at a Christmas party, and the topic of conversation was immigration.
Yeah, but they're all like military types, and you know, it's all macho. And I've had guys who I've known for 40 years that they've lived all over the country, all over the world. People come from Australia going, and you're going with, you know, what do you care? You didn't live here, so why are you concerned about that? They're just going, it's the small boats.
And aren't the Australians immigrants?
Well, apart from the people who used to live there, yeah.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't be immigrants in Australia, but if you're talking to them here, then, you know, that sounds foreign to me. But as is usually the case with people who are themselves immigrants and who complain about immigration, their notion is, well, I'm okay, just pull the drawbridge up after me.
Yeah, they all think they're doing well, and if they're not doing as well as they should have, then they've got a ready-made excuse.
It's somebody else's fault. Yeah, it's those people
the
over there.
The media is winning. I'm telling you.
I think that if
we don't sort ourselves out, they're going to win.
Yeah, I think there's some truth in that. Yeah, I mean, if they just keep pounding you with the propaganda day after day after day, then even the brightest spark will succumb eventually. Yeah.
It's been extinguished. There's no spark anywhere. They've just totally they've all drank the Kool-Aid.
Right.
Nick, I'm sorry.
Well, that is disappointing to hear, but thanks for the bad news, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, well,
all right.
Merry Christmas.
And you. Thanks a lot, Jed. 0345 6060 973. Why is it Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, by the way? Never Merry New Year. Why is that? I mean, you can wish somebody Merry Christmas or Happy Christmas, but it's only ever Happy New Year, never Merry New Year. Because that speaks of a drunken bacchanalia, doesn't it? Merry. I mean, it implies that you've been on the sauce.
Booze.
And I guess that's okay for Christmas, but not for all of the New Year. But New Year, I mean, you can only wish somebody a Happy New Year up to a certain point. Let's say the first week. After then, it gets a bit old. Although there will undoubtedly be people still at the end of January calling me up on their show and wishing me a Happy New Year. You know, well, appreciate that, but it's, you know, it's the news is a bit old now. Why is it never Merry New Year? Serious question. 0345 6060 973. Manchester, Raj.
Good evening, Nick. How are you today? You well?
Good, thanks, yes.
A couple of things, really. The reason why they say Merry Christmas is because that's what you're expected to be like a merry over them few days, as in a little bit tipsy.
Yes.
But if they say Merry New Year, that's like you're expected to be drunk all year through.
No, I don't think so, because New Year...
Right.
No, New Year is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then after that...
the whole of the year. That's why they have a Happy New Year. All year you should have a Happy New Year.
Right.
Anyway, well, I don't know about that anyway, but I just said that anyway. That was the second thing, and that's not the reason why I called. Okay. The reason why I called was, so this poor lady, 77 years old, I think you said, wasn't she?
Yes.
The one who's, why didn't they just go to Timson's to get that strap adjusted?
That's a good idea. Yeah, they can get that strap adjusted. Yeah.
Exactly. Buy another ex-convict as well. That's putting more money back into the community. It makes perfect sense.
There you go.
See, this is just rang up Lord Timpson even.
Yeah, exactly. Timpson's, he can open one of those even if it's closed. Even if it's over Christmas,
exactly.
he's got the keys. He can open it right up.
Especially for that reason. Anyway, this poor lady, to get her back her back out of jail.
I can't believe that a government in want of a win has not stepped in and said, we'll clear the decks, this lady is getting out, and furthermore, we're going to make her I don't know, the homecoming queen, or whatever, however you want to describe it.
Stick her to the House of Lords.
Well, they could just take her to a fancy hotel and give her a nice meal.
Why not?
Her and her family. Yeah, on us.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
All right. Thanks a lot, Raj. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, Keir Starmer hasn't had very much good news, and he has told us to wait. But, you know, the right-wing press and their offshore billionaire media mogul owners, they're not in the business of waiting, particularly if it's a Labour government. The moment that they won the election, everything that was wrong with this country was the Labour's fault, according to those papers. And Keir Starmer has pleaded for patience. And he ain't getting it. I'll come to that in a minute. I mean, he said some pretty smart things, but he does say and do some things that are benefiting the country. It's just that the country hasn't heard it yet. But they will hear about this lady. If he steps in personally and goes to a jail and says, "Don't you know who I am?" and personally escorts that nice lady out and treats her and her family to a slap-up Christmas dinner on us, then that'd be totally fine by me, and it would give him the win that he needs in the period over Christmas, because there's not really going to be much news, not for the next couple of weeks. Well, you know, fingers crossed, hopefully. And so people would go into the break feeling positively about skier, as opposed to at the moment when not so much. It's such an easy win. I am stunned. Particularly as he seemed to have been attacking pensioners from the moment he got into number 10. Now, I don't believe that he is doing anything that the Tories would not have done, and probably worse, they would have done it. I mean, I don't think that they were going to compensate the WASPy women, and I don't think that they were going to not... what do you call it? Test. I've forgotten what the phrase is. Test the people's wealth pertaining to their winter fuel allowance. What do you call it? What's the phrase? No, he doesn't know. Two clueless dopes here in charge of a radio show. Can you believe that?
No.
Yeah. Means test. Means test. That's it. I think the Tories were going to means test the winter fuel allowance as well. So he hasn't done anything that wasn't going to happen anyway. It's just that it's all on him now, and he needs a win. I'd suggest that he needs a win really quickly. I mean, his political nous is not that finely tuned. Somebody needs to get hold of him and say, walk this way, walk that way, do this, say that, and, they need... I'm not suggesting this actual person, but they need an Alistair Campbell type. Somebody who's got to bang heads together and start sending out a positive message, because they are doing positive things. I mean, they do appear to be going in the right direction. It's just that everybody's concentrating on the few stumbles that they've had so far, which would be potentially wiped out by him personally going and getting that nice lady out of jail. Do it, Skier. Helen in Hertford said, I used to electronically tag prisoners, and all they needed to do was put it on her ankle. She didn't have to do the time. Ankles are wider than wrists. Yes, but apparently there is some sort of medical reason why she can't have one on her ankle. I just don't know what the authorities think is going to happen if they can't tag her wrist. I mean, do they think that she's going to go on the run? She's going to be hiding out in woodland. I mean, what are they expecting to happen? She'll still be there in a couple of weeks' time, at home. Where else is she going to go? I mean, she's not up for murder, for crying out loud. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
I am stunned.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Have an outside line, please.
0345 6060 973. This text says, why are we paying the water companies to throw our sewage into rivers when I can use the defenestration method for free with almost identical outcomes? Yes. This text says, of course. She should not be in prison or even tagged, but the size of the tag is yet another instance of everything being sized for adult males. Well, I suppose it makes sense that prison tags are sized for adult males because almost everybody in prison is an adult male. I think the male population makes up something like 95% of those who are in prison. Men are dreadful.
Correct.
That's just a fact. Craig says, fine water company bosses 50% of their combined salary and bonuses for dumping sewage and it will stop overnight. Or even better, lock them up. Yeah, exactly. Rather than requiring a bonus to be enticed, to be induced to doing a good job, cut their wages if they don't. Better. And they will say, I know exactly what they'll say, oh, well, we have to provide an enormous salary to get the best people. Well, if this is an indication of the best people, maybe we should try the second best people. Just give that a go. Bodmin. Hello, Malcolm.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Yes, Malcolm.
Hey, that woman, the protest, I just had a quick look on Google. I searched it, and there's a BBC story and there's a photo of her. And do you remember, I think it was the 70s or the 80s, there's a programme with Robert Lindsay called Wolfie Smith.
Yeah.
And do you remember his image, what he looked like?
Well, he used to go around in that, I don't know what kind of material that was, that coat that he used to wear. It was like he was wearing a sheep.
Yeah, all right, yeah. But on his head, he had the beret, yeah?
Oh, yes.
But there's a picture. There's a picture of this lady, bless her. She's, as you said, 77-year-old environmental campaigner, former school teacher, for heaven's sake. I mean, she's a bag of trouble, this woman, clearly. and she just looks at the image of Wolfie Smith. It just cracked me up. I thought, what is the government doing? If they can't overpower the Justice Department on this one, then give up in it.
The government, that Keir Starmer is not personally ringing people's phones off the hook, getting this lady out in time for Christmas, that I am stunned. I mean, talk about being a political incompetent. I mean, that just takes the biscuit.
Notwithstanding mind what her and the group did, and I mean, in all fairness, that group, they have completely fallen out of favour in the country. At first, through the COVID, the Just Stop Oil thing was big and people had sympathy, but I think they did overstep the mark. And that's what she's linked with.
Well, it depends what you mean by overstep the mark, Mark. I mean, if they had any if they had any influence in stopping the consequence of climate change, which was, I mean, talk about the inconvenience of stopping traffic. How about the inconvenience of the bottom floor of your building being underwater?
Yeah. No, but I mean, you know, the things like gluing themselves to the roofs of trains. And just, I mean, there were some stupid things that they did. Notwithstanding, I've already said, you know, that the cause, nobody can disagree with the cause.
Well, a lot of people are disagreeing with the cause, pretending it's not happening. And here's the thing about climate change. It doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not. It's going to affect you anyway. It probably already has if you have house insurance.
Yeah. 2 minutes ago, you were saying, well, you weren't saying anything because you were struggling for words.
Yes.
You weren't using any words.
No.
And it was the word that escapes me now, for goodness sake.
Means testing.
Means test.
Yes.
Means testing.
See, not so easy when you're on the air, is it? The
thing is, look, Keir Starmer. He isn't using a means test. He's using a mean test. I just said to Clamorous Listeners, he said, if you need it, Starmer says, if you need it, you're not getting it.
Well, I don't think he said. I don't think he said if you need it, you're not getting it. If you don't need it, you're not getting it. Surely.
Yeah, but that was the effect of his scrapping the heating thing and all that. When for a few, not for the majority, are rightly not going to be getting it, but there's a few who. And apparently today is the deadline for applications for a benefit, isn't it? Well, that benefit. Why can't they extend the deadline?
Well, you've got me. I mean, they're losing so much capital with the public. They're losing so much goodwill. It's almost as though they're determined to do it. He keeps saying, "I've got tough decisions to make." Yeah, but do they have to? Do they have to appear as though they're all picking on one particular group of people? Why don't you spread the misery around, Skier?
I told you months and months, 6 months, a year ago. Watch out for some individuals, and those some individuals, they are rising to the top. But I want to ask you a question that's on every listener's lips, and it's this. And you're a man of great intellect, and you're going to know. You're going to know how to answer this question.
Sure, that's me. Mm-hmm.
And the question is this: given what's happened and the reaction to it, right now, if you were Keir Starmer, what would you do to put things right? What would you do?
I would get that lady out of jail. I mean, you all you need is one splash, the one positive good story, and then everybody shuts down for the next couple of weeks, and they will keep that in their memory, and you'll start the year on a positive note.
Yeah, but that's not going to change the fortunes of the country, is it? Or is it?
Well, no, it's not going to change the fortunes of the country, but we're all about feelings now, baby. We're not about changing our fortune. I mean, that will come in years. So this is an oil tanker that's got to be turned around. It's not a speedboat.
No. Right. So you can't answer my question?
I did answer your question. Just get a positive news story under your belt, and that would be it.
Get a tag on this woman and get her back out on the street.
Just forget the tag. She's not going on the run.
I can't believe that. I mean, when I read that she had to be slapped back in the slammer because they couldn't get a tag to stay on her wrist because her wrist was too small, and they couldn't put it on her leg because of deep vein thrombosis.
Right.
Well, I mean, this woman is not going to run anyway, is she?
It's just the silliest thing I've heard. I mean, it's silly and annoying, and it's appalling, and it's cruel, and it's every emotion under the sun. And all Keir Starmer has to do in order to get a positive news story, which he is in want of, is to get that lady out of jail and to be photographed next to her.
Do you think they should bring back the Tories then, Nick?
You're funny, you are. Okay, gotta go. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, let's go back to the Tories, eh?
No.
Don't forget how awful it has been over the last 14 years, and that is the reason, not one of, the reason that we're in this mess. And Skier has asked for patience, because it will take a while. I mean, it's easy to smash stuff up. It's much more difficult to put it back together again, regardless of what it is that we're talking about. And if it's a country, then you can add no end of complications to that. Very, very difficult. And it will take time. And that's what Skier has asked for, and but the right-wing press aren't in the mood to give it to him because, they're having a fit that you could see from space because their people lost. That's the sound from Fleet Street ever since the Tories lost the last election. They just can't believe it. They've thrown all of their toys out of the pram and and are, they're just freaking out. And they've just been pounding and pounding and pounding away. And so the entire nation thinks bad things about Keir Starmer. And they think that he hasn't done anything positive yet. But he absolutely has. I mean, I read out their achievements so far and the things that they have got in the pipeline. I think it was last weekend or maybe the weekend before. It took forever. It was a huge list. Don't make me read it again. Just look it up. So we are going in the right direction, but no one's going to feel any positive sensation from it for ages. I mean, you can smash the NHS up quickly. The Tories did it quickly and then continuously for 14 years straight. And you can't put that back together again in 6 months. It's absolutely impossible. It'll take years. And the same is true with everything else that is ailing this country. Everything else. We've just finished an abusive relationship with this government and the one before that. Liz.
Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, we've just suffered a clown show.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And it's going to take a while to, put this circus back together again. The clown car, all the wheels have fallen off and the engine's exploded. It's going to take a while. Let's have, let's see now. Macclesfield. Hello, Sue.
Hello there, Nick.
Sue.
Oh, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I knew that would happen. Just a word on Handkerchief Day.
Yeah.
I'm in my 60s now, but I was a small child in the reception class. We had what was called a Handkerchief Day, and we were taught how to use your handkerchief, and we were taught how to fold it up after you've used it and pop it up your sleeve.
Oh.
And we were taught...
But boys don't... Boys don't... Hang on a minute. Hang on. Boys don't put hankies up their sleeve, though. That's ladies.
Boys were meant to as well. It was both boys and girls.
I thought that a gentleman put his hanky in the top pocket of his jacket.
Well, this was if you didn't have a pocket.
Right.
We were only small children.
I guess so.
Didn't have,
right, got it.
Yeah. So this was the way you were taught to.
And how did you clean them?
If you used it up your sleeve.
How did you clean?
You would take it out when you coughed or sneezed and put it over your mouth.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay.
Yes.
But not blowing your nose.
If you didn't have a handkerchief, you had to put your hand over your mouth to stop.
Yeah, that doesn't really work. Well, it doesn't really. All the germs are just...
Bad memories when COVID came around, and I thought about how we were taught, even as small children, to help stop the germs spreading, you must put something over your mouth and nose, yeah.
Well, yeah, your sleeve would probably be better. Like sneeze into the crook of your arm would be good.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
But don't blow your nose and then carry it around with you all day. That's just absolutely revolting.
I'll be honest with you. To this day, I still put a handkerchief up my sleeve. Not a dirty one.
Yeah.
But on saying that, if there's been an emergency and you're on the street and you sneeze...
Yeah.
And then you've got nowhere to put your handkerchief.
Right.
Can't just throw it on the floor.
No.
What do you do with it?
Stick it up your sleeve, Sue.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. These are life lessons, kids.
Exactly. Yeah. They really are.
And no one under the age of, let's say, 50 years old is ever going to use a handkerchief again for the rest of their lives. They just won't.
It's tissue ones these days, though, not a cotton.
We will chop down entire forests and make them into tissue paper just to avoid carrying that goop around with us. Oh. All right, thanks a lot, Sue. 0345 6060 973. Nigel emails, has anyone ever told you look like Bill Nighy or maybe Jurgen Klinsmann? No. No and no in that order. Matt in Nottingham says, the water companies should not be fined a single penny. That's our money, which they should be forced to spend on water infrastructure before they even think of giving themselves a bonus on top of their telephone number salaries. But I agree. I mean, the chief executives have to be responsible for the actions of their companies. And if they're not, then they shouldn't be doing that job. It means if they're not responsible and they have no control, then get somebody else to do that job, somebody better, somebody who doesn't need a six-figure inducement to do the job that they're being paid for in the first place. And they should be fined, the chief executives personally. And they should be put in jail for anything that would get us, you and me, put in jail for. Like pouring poison into Lake Windermere, for instance. Phil in Accrington says, is archery a sport? If you think it is, then should darts be a sport because it's derived from archery? Is archery a sport? Well, it's a bit of a weird pastime, I suppose. I mean, there's a bit too much machinery and distance involved. Is it a sport, though? It's not a pastime, and I wouldn't really call it a sport, because you could play archery at the highest level while also being fat. I'm pretty sure that that's true. I don't have any evidence that that is true, because I've never watched archery, but, you know, why wouldn't you be able to do that? So if you can do it while at the highest level while being fat, then it's a pastime. If you can't, then it's a sport. I think those are the rules. Those are the rules that I have made up, but, you know, don't blame me. I only make the rules. This one says, I'm listening to you from my bedroom upstairs. My husband is listening to you downstairs with headphones on. Can you tell him to get the dog... Can you tell him to let the dogs in? He's not answering his phone and it's too cold to go down.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We're running late.
Yes, we are running late. A quick reminder that the A to Z of 2024 starts on Monday at 10 o'clock and goes through to Sunday when we finish. It starts a day earlier than it normally does, and it will finish 2 days normally. 2 days earlier than it normally does. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's Monday to Sunday. The A to Z of 2024 starts this Monday at 10 p.m. LBC. Ian in Cornwall says, Nick, I usually go vegetarian for Christmas dinner. I'm not vegan. It's just the thought of that last lonely turkey, shivering, naked on the shelf, with a sprig of parsley up its bottom. It's not a good way to go, is it? No, you don't want to be the last turkey on the shelf. No, you don't. That would be sad. Darius says, Nick, please don't predict anything. Everything you said so far has come true. The Tories blaming Labour 5 minutes after losing the election. Brexit, Bodger, Trump. Who are you? Says Darius. Well, you know those spherical orbs? Yeah, that's how I get to work. Colour coats. Hello, Brian.
Hi, Nick. A horror story about handkerchiefs. Back in the 70s, my Nana used to wear headscarves. When I had a cabbage chocolate cream egg, she said, look, a handkerchief and wipe my face with it to get the chocolate off my face.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a bit of a horror story, that. You know what I mean? Licking the handkerchief and then wiping my mouth with it, you know what I mean, when I was a kid.
Well, that's grannies for you, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, well, thanks for the bad news. Cheers, Brian. Yeah, cleaning your face with their spit. Oh, yeah, no. That's a big no from me. You get chocolate all over your face as a kid, and then your granny would try to rub it off, and it wouldn't come off immediately. She would just smear it with a dry hanky that she lodged up her sleeve, and then she'd spit on the hanky and then rub it on your face. Oh, God. Where's the health and safety there? This says, do you respect Chairman Un of North Korea as a world leader? I love Mr. Un's hairdo and the flash suits he wears. He should be in vogue. He should be in jail. Will says, are you sure it was not the orangutan who sued for being compared to Donald Trump? I think I've got that the right way around. This says, people will still say what they want to say about Donald Trump. He won't be able to intimidate people. It will descend into chaos and farce like it did last time. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think that Donald Trump and his billionaire backers will start raining down lawsuits on comedians because they've already gone after people who know things. They're going to gut the government. They're going to fire everybody that is the people who are actually really running the country. They've gone after universities, professors. I think Vance actually said out loud, "Professors are the enemy," didn't he? So they've gone after them. They've gone after the press, and the comedians are next. Betcha. Mendacious lawsuits going to be raining down on America's comics. And it won't matter that the lawsuits don't have any merit, and it won't matter that they could lose in court, because it's just going to tie the comics up in legal arguments that could last for years, and the amount of money that they'll have to spend in order to defend themselves, which is perfect if you are being backed by the world's richest human, because he could fund 1 million lawsuits from now until the end of time, and it wouldn't affect him at all. So I bet you that is what's going to happen next. The first go around from Trump was from a distance amusing. I don't think it's going to be funny this time around. I think it's just going to be appalling from the start. Mark says, I was working in retail the year that Rage Against the Machine went to Christmas #1. The amusement of most of the customers that were not there with their children, and the complete horror and panic of the ones that were, the uncensored version of Killing in the Name was played live over the radio in error. Oh, no. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Well, I remember when Derek and Clive Live came out. I walked into a record shop and they put it on and played the whole thing. I mean, it's still one of the funniest records that's ever been released, but, you wouldn't want to listen to it in polite company. This says, I am a Brit, 60 years old, and my parents indoctrinated me in the use of the handkerchief. Then, 20 years ago, I emigrated to Canada, and the first time I pulled out my hanky in a pub, there were gasps of horror, followed by people laughing at me. Laughing at him! I realised at that point that hankies are peculiar to the UK, and I never carried one again. Even the special heirloom ones my dad left me in his will. Yes, that's true. Even they went in the bin. Yeah, it's just absolutely revolting. How is that even a thing? How has it ever been a thing? There's always been tissues available. Adrian says, clean handkerchiefs are carried by gentlemen and never used. They are there in case a fair damsel is in a state of distress and may be given freely. Might be a dinner date in it. Yeah, well, as long as they're not used, yeah. This says, hankies are not for blowing your nose on. They are simply to wipe your nose, otherwise you would have to use your sleeve. This show is getting worse. Have you noticed? I can't believe I'm at the end. Is that it? I have actually finished the texts and the emails from both last night and tonight. Can you believe that? No. There's just one more to go. So, before I haven't read it ahead. I mean, it's quite possibly not to the funny... Oh, here's another one. This isn't the final text. I stopped putting them in with... Right. This is the glamorous assistant from next door. It says, this is not the final text. I stopped putting them on the document an hour ago. So, we're very sorry about that.
I am very sorry that I screwed up. Totally screwed. I mean, I am so sorry. You just don't know how sorry I am. I am sorry.
I am very apologetic for his behaviour. Nothing I can do about that. Out of my control. Out of my control. Out of my control. Out of my control. out of my control, 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 out of my control,